Hey guys, I'm Joseph Mazrak. Welcome to the Blue Deck Podcast, Season 2. If you're new here, thanks for tuning in. In Season 1, we began going through my story into the attic of the world. Here in Season 2, the story continues, so new listeners, feel free to check out this episode, but I highly recommend going back to the beginning of Season 1 so you don't miss how this whole crazy adventure started. Okay, now for all of you who've been tuning in already, sorry it took me a little longer than I anticipated to launch this season. I have been so busy. Something came up at work. I had a last-minute trip to Guam. There was that, but also something incredible happened. The story this podcast is based on, Into the Attic of the World, it's getting published! Woohoo! All right, I'm super excited about that. This story was picked up by Sunbury Press and it will be published under their Milford House imprint. That's amazing, wonderful, delightful news. But it made me a little nervous because the fate of this podcast was momentarily uncertain. Good news. That's right, more good news. Sunbury actually likes me doing the podcast, and I like doing it, so it will continue. Now, when the book comes out, please go and buy it. I'll have a lot more to say about that in the coming episodes. Where you buy it may make a difference. Signed editions may become available. There's still a lot of unanswered questions, but buying the book for yourself or your kids or for friends, all of that will be tremendously helpful both to me and to the show. Now, we have a very special guest doing our recap. Here's my lovely and talented daughter. Take it away, Layla.
In the humidity of the control room, with the kids sitting in a circle and snacking on Dawn's bag of Skittles, Captain Kidd tells a story of wonder and loss. The girl is called Castatine, and he knew her way up high in the rooftop of the world. He was from the blue deck, she was from the red, and they would meet in the middle, at the well in the center of Gossamer Gardens. Castatine was careless, dangerous, and always laughing. But even though she was a troublesome girl, he liked her. During one of her games, she fell into the well, not knowing that the hole was for more than drawing water. It was a doorway, and it carried her into the red attic, where the dark unicorn reigns. Captain Kidd shimmied down the rope after her, but that was a problem, you see. At the time, he didn't understand the passages between realities, that the water would take her to the red deck below, but the rope would take him to the blue side. For a long time, he was lost, not knowing where to go or how to get there. When he finally made it into the red attic, it was too late. Castatine was already serving that land's king. When his story concludes, at last, it's time to address the shuttle. Will they stay, or will they go with Captain Kidd? Charles insists upon the danger of the mission, that the Nautilus could blow up just like the Challenger space shuttle. They had watched that happen live on television. Ozzy protests, dismissing such concerns, but Captain Kidd is obliged to agree with Charles' more gloomy assessment. The shuttle might explode, he admits, but to him it's worth the risk because the Pat Fair is worth saving. In a world full of worries, he says, people need to know someone good is watching. The captain's reasons are all well and good, but Charles cannot be convinced to forsake his family and risk his life to save a fairy, even if she is a princess from some highway land. But for his friends, yes, he will go for them.
Chapter 10, The Boarding. Before beginning launch preparations, the captain showed us to the shuttle. It was very impressive, massive, far bigger than it looked on television. The ship had a patriotic energy, partly due to the space shuttle's prominent placement in our memories, also because of the American flag painted on the left wing. The flag looked small from a distance, but as we climbed the stairs of the launch tower, I saw how big it was, although, like the rest of the Nautilus, something about the flag looked vaguely out of sorts. Ozzy was walking up the stairs behind me when he called out, "Hey, Cap, what's up with the flag? None of stars." He was right. There were 6 even rows of 8. Captain Kidd paused, looking past the railing to the wing stretched out beside us. The wing was white, trimmed in black, and dotted with rusting bolt heads. "This old bird wasn't built for NASA, you know. It's not even made to go in space." Ozzy darted past me, gripping his baseball bat in one hand and steadying his bulky backpack with the other. "What's it for, then?" "I already told you. It takes us up the deck." With a chipper tour guide inflection, the captain waved a hand toward the shuttle. "The Nautilus was built by a wizard named Doctor Alkatan way back in the 1930s. That's why the flag's missing some stars. Alaska and Hawaii weren't states back then." "Whoa, the 1930s? Really?" Ozzy looked back at me, but I had latched onto another detail. The ship was built by a wizard. Yet, what sort of wizard could a doctor be? Was he the gray-bearded variety, with a robe and floppy pointed hat? Or was he a monster in a red cape, waiting to kill us in a room made of mirrors like the sorcerer in the second Conan movie? In any case, no wizard I could think of was likely to build a rocket ship. As we continued up the stairs, 2 more flights and we'd be even with the cockpit, Captain Kidd said, "This shuttle's a lot like NASA's. I'm sure they borrowed the design, but it works totally differently." "How so?" I asked. "For starts, it uses dynamite as rocket fuel." "Dynamite?" I sputtered. "That's crazy." But the captain just went on talking. "The rockets are like giant stacks of tuna fish cans. Each has a few thousand sticks of dynamite. Kooky, right? But it works. The math is pretty simple, but the variables, wind speed, barometric pressure, the weight of the passengers and cargo, can make a big difference. Too much bang and we'll fly past the door. Too little and we'll have to land the thing. And trust me, landing's the hard part." Don stopped him. "What if we get it right? We don't have to land?" "Nope," the captain said. "Our aim is to dock with the door, not to land." "Where is the door?" I asked. "Above us." I leaned out over the railing, seeing nothing in the sky but shifting clouds. When we got to the final platform, we approached the cabin by way of a narrow catwalk. Captain Kidd led the way. When he reached the cockpit door, he opened it by twisting a blue doorknob made of glass. Because the ship was pointed toward the sky, the door was sideways, the hinges on the bottom. He had to lower the door onto himself, supporting it with both hands. I could tell the passage was designed with this orientation in mind because the inside of the door had wooden notches big enough to use as steps. The captain looked to me, gesturing with a hand for me to go ahead. I approached with caution. The transition would be an awkward one because the opening was much wider than it was tall. I'd have to step out onto the door, duck down, and swing my legs in first. What would come after that, I couldn't guess. The interior was dark. Likely as not, it'd be like climbing into an airliner stood up on its tail. I'd have to stand on seatbacks or bulkheads because the floor was now a wall straight up and down. When I put a foot on the open door, the entire vessel rocked nervously. From far below, I heard the massive wing clamps strain, the weight of countless tons of iron binding up as it swayed. I withdrew my foot at once. The top of the shuttle teetered to the right, easily 3 feet of sway, then came back to settle squarely against the catwalk. When I tried my foot again, this time the shuttle tilted away from me. How unstable it felt, with a groaning metal and the shuttle tottering like a stack of plates in a Bugs Bunny caper. At any moment the thing might tip over with disastrous effect. As it drifted, the incredible gap growing between the platform and the shuttle revealed how far I could fall, doubtless to my death, should the boarding go awry. "You'll have to jump on," Don said. I could feel my temperature rising. "I shouldn't have to jump on. The thing should be built better than this." I eyed the young captain. He watched the Nautilus lean, creaking, back again to touch the outstretched boarding platform. "Should be," he said, "but it isn't. Jump, it won't fall." Then with an odd glimmer in his eyes, he added,
I promise." Resenting my inclusion in this escapade, I gritted my teeth, swung my backpack in through the open door, and stepped with purpose onto the first unsteady step. As my weight shifted from the platform to the shuttle door, the step seemed to drop. If that was real or only in my head, I wasn't sure, but the Nautilus tilted away from the tower again. I didn't realize how far away until I looked back. My friends were a dozen feet from me. On the catwalk, they stared with wide eyes, yelling, "Get in!" and "Oh no!" and all sorts of useless exclamations. As the shuttle reached the end of its pendulum sway, I pawed at the doorframe, scrambling for purchase, knowing that my part in this drama could end with me cartwheeling into open air. I stood on the door. The concrete walls of the canyon curved around me. Below, the metal bindings on the wings sent moaning complaints humming up through the skin of the ship. Then the shuttle was moving back toward the launch tower, moving fast. With me stuck in the middle, I would be crushed. I yelled, but couldn't hear my own voice over the creaking metal bindings. Finally, as the tower closed in, my senses returned and I dove into the ship, landing on my backpack. I looked up at the strange sideways door, expecting to see the launch tower smash into it. It didn't. The tower came into view, already slowing. The contact was almost unperceivable. I let out a long breath, and sat back, an unknown lump digging at my backside. I ignored it. Something else had my attention. The room was not as dark as it first seemed, only dim compared to the outside. Sunlight streamed in through a row of cockpit windows. Above me, silhouetted against the sun, was a row of 5 seats, all positioned to access a multitude of control panels. Some of the panels displayed broad-faced brass gauges. Others were covered with toggle switches and lifeless light bulbs. Others had levers and twistable valves. Every seat seemed to have responsibility for some crucial aspect of the flight. That made me nervous. Then I saw William's smiling face looking in through the door. "Are you all right in there?" I didn't know if I was or not. I felt a little sick to my stomach and I banged my knee, but more importantly, William's weight on the door was causing the ship to wobble again. "In or out?" I said. "This thing feels like it's balanced on a spring." William hopped in beside me, a quick and easy move, using one hand to steady himself as he swung in his legs. That's what I'd intended to do before my life was threatened. Next came Dawn. Her boarding was as uneventful as William's. Ozzy, however, made the thing tilt so far I thought for sure we were going over. He screamed and laughed the whole time. I had to pull him in by double handfuls of his Jose Canseco jersey. When at last the captain joined us in the shuttle, I took a second to register what I was sitting on, the handle of a drawer. I was perched atop a cabinet. Dawn was sitting on a door, a downward-facing door, I noted morosely. The door was lacquered wood. The interior of the Nautilus looked like the inside of an old yacht, or maybe a fancy fishing boat, but nothing like a spaceship. That made sense if it was really built in the 1930s. Captain Kidd dusted off his breeches, then dug in his backpack, taking out a little glass box. "There you are," he said, and set the box in a bracket on the wall, securing it with a leather strap. When he withdrew his hand, I saw we were going to have an unexpected passenger. "You remember Joseph?" the captain asked. Joseph was his pet crab. We'd first saw the little guy in the basement of his raft. Truthfully, I'd forgotten about the bright red crustacean. On pointed feet, the crab scampered across the miniature habitat, looking rather happy for a creature with mandibles. "Aw," Dawn swooned, "you brought him." "Of course I brought him. Joseph's my buddy." Captain Kidd tapped the aquarium with his knuckle. Amazingly, the little crab returned the gesture, clicking with his largest pincher. The captain looked up to the row of cockpit seats. "Ozzy, climb up there and lower the ladder. Let's see if we can get the power on."
All right, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the chapter. Thank you again to Layla for doing such an excellent job on the recap. Also, thanks Brian Wages for providing our music. Folks, if you like what you hear, take a moment to rate the show. That helps new listeners find us. You can reach me on Twitter at Joseph Mazerac. That's JOSEPHMAZERAC. I will try to be more active there. It kind of comes and goes. Also, Facebook. Go to facebook.com/Joseph Mazerac author. You can email me, joseph@thebluedeck.com. And if you want to learn more about me or my novel Into the Attic of the World or this podcast in general, visit our home on the web, thebluedeck.com.